Hi everybody! So in today's video we're going to be talking about writing an equation in slope-intercept form. Now in our previous unit we talked a little bit about the slope and the y-intercept of a line. I'd like to start by reviewing what slope is. So as a review, the slope of a line can always be found by looking at the ratio, which means it's always going to be a fraction, of rise over run. For example, if I was to look at this graph and I wanted to find the slope, I would remind myself that slope is always rise over run. So to go from this point to this point, I would rise 2 and then run backwards 5 spaces. So I would make that a -5. Now, if it was possible, I would simplify this fraction. In this case, the ratio of 2 and 5 does not simplify. But if that was like a 2 and a 4, I would simplify that fraction. Now, our slope-intercept form of an equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is always the slope, which we find by doing rise over run, and b is always the y-intercept. Which we find by looking for where the graph crosses the x-axis. Okay, how are we going to be able to write these equations? Well, one situation you might have is that it says write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line, and it tells you in the problem that the slope is -2 and the y-intercept is 5. If the slope is -2, that's telling me my m value. And if the y-intercept is 5, that's telling me my b value. I'm going to think about the equation y equals mx plus b. And all I'm going to do is replace the m here with a -2 and the b here with a 5. So my final answer here would be y equals -2 x, don't forget the x, that's part of the equation, plus 5. And that would be my final answer. Now the next example is very similar. Once again, it's telling you your slope is 4, so that would be your m, and your y-intercept is -3, so that would be your b. If we think about our equation y equals mx plus b, all I'm going to do is replace the m with with 4. I'm reading the wrong problem now. And the b with -3. And then I'm just going to copy down the y equals and the x. So my final answer would be y equals 4x minus 3. Now another situation you could have would be that you would be given a graph. So if I'm given a graph and I want to find the slope, I'm going to look at the rise over the run. Now in this problem, the rise is 2. And the run is -5 because I'm going to the left. The y-intercept is the point on the graph where it crosses the y-axis. So that would be at the value 1, 2, 3. Finally, my equation would be y equals m, which is your slope, so 2 over negative 5, x plus b, which is your y-intercept. Let's take a look at number 4. If I wanted to find my slope on this graph, my rise would be 5, and my run would be 3, and it's both positive because I'm going up and to the right. My y-intercept would be negative 2. So my equation would be y equals 5 over 3, because that's my m, x plus b, which is negative 2. On the next page, we're going to talk about one more thing, and that one more thing is equations of vertical and horizontal lines. I want to remind you of our acronym VUXHOI. If you remember, earlier this year we talked about VUX and HOY. We said that the V stands for vertical lines, the U stands for undefined slope, and the X stands for X equals a number in the equation. If you remember HOI, the H stood for horizontal lines. The O was actually the number 0, because the slope of a horizontal line is 0. And the Y stands for Y equals a number in the equation. So this helps us remember that vertical lines have an undefined slope, and when we write the equation, it says x equals a number. It also helps remind us that horizontal lines have a 0 slope, and when we write the equation, it says y equals a number. If I look at this first example, this is a horizontal line. So I'm going to remember HOI. If we have a horizontal line, my equation should say y equals a number. Now in this case, the number would be 1, 2, 3, because that's the height of that horizontal line. In my next example, this is a vertical line. So I'm going to remember VUX. Vertical lines say x equals a number in their equation. In this equation, it would be 1, 2, 3, because that's the x value of my vertical line. Now these equations are a little bit different because they're not y equals mx plus b, but we still can write the equation of these lines by remembering VUXHOI. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for some practice.